Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys in California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, we're just going to continue bringing more information and showing how the Christians don't have much of a history. All they've done is come and build on top of the original sites. And, and they've made it seem as if they've always been here. Now, when you understand that they haven't always been here, and that, they aren't, the people of antiquity that they've been trying their best to portray themselves as, then it's like, why is it that, well, I understand we've been conditioned to think that we have to explain everything to them and prove everything to them, when they are never going to admit anything. They're never going to admit the fact that we are the people. They're never going to admit the fact that they just came in and built over all of our sites. Now, some people are going to, the Most High is going to put it in their spirit to, be able to see the truth, be able to follow the Most High, and be able to cleave. But the vast majority of the people are going to go down with the ship. The vast majority of the people think that white Jesus is coming back to save them. No matter how bad things get, they think that as these things are getting worse and worse, that just means that they're just closer to the rapture, that they're closer to their redemption. All the while, they're getting closer and closer to the realization that everything they've been taught is a lie. That's what they're really getting closer to. They don't realize that. They think that they're getting closer to being taken out of here. They think that they've done such a great job that they've earned the right to just be able to leave all of the horrible things, the horrible mess that their people have made. And in what reality that makes sense, I have no idea. You can't be the one that's responsible for all of this destruction, and then you think that somehow you get to just walk away from the mess. You and your people were the ones that dirtied up the kitchen, made the mess, made all these, left all these dishes, used every dish in the house, cooked, made this huge meal for yourselves. And now when it's time to clean up that huge kitchen, you made like a meal for 100 people. And now that it's time to actually clean up, you seem to think you're just going to get in the car and leave that mess for someone else to clean up. And that's not what's going to happen. Now, what you're going to see is that the Christians, just went over these sites, these sacred sites, built their churches, and then made it seem as if they were bringing the real God that the people needed to worship. So just put the real God in their churches, and people would, just come and worship the true God. All the while, they've hidden all of their actions. They made it seem as if, so many people think that the Catholic Church has this long, established history, and it doesn't. People want to act like the Christian churches has this long established history, but it doesn't. They want to make it seem like, the Christian church has been here, for hundreds and hundreds, over 1,000, almost 2,000 years. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. You guys barely just got a hold of our sacred sites. That's why, we know the timelines have been screwed up and everything else. But that's okay, because like I said, the Most High has put all this information in all these different books. And now, he's making it so it's so obvious that it cannot be denied that you guys have done nothing but lie. You've established your churches on lies. But that goes back to, the Book of Mormon, your abominable church. How you guys have all, you watch the Catholic Church put our people in slavery, destroy our people. And the whole world worships the church, the abominable church, because that's what they did to the Most High's chosen people. But now you've come to the end of that reign, and now the Most High is exposing all the things that you guys have been doing. Well, we're on our way to getting all of that information. We're just getting started right now. We're going to be getting into another book this evening. I brought it out a while ago, but we're going to get into some other information from The Sowers of Thunder by Anthony Roberts. Just going to read a little bit this evening, okay? Page 84. Now, talk about these monasteries that are built on top of these, on these hills, okay? And how important it is for them, and the things that they've changed, okay? But this is something that they say that Christians always do. It's nothing new, okay? It's just now that the Most High's opened our eyes, now we're seeing it. And this, these tactics they've used we're seeing in so many different places. So many different books. Okay? The monastery later built upon St. Michael's Mount was an offshoot of the French establishment on a similar conical island. On Mount St. Michael, off the rocky coast of Normandy. This similarity is exact and deliberate. Throughout the Christian world, St. Michael's churches are constantly found set upon isolated hilltops. The small St. Michael crowning Glastonbury tower being typical. Most of these churches are noted as shrines for pilgrimage. They were spiritual way stations on the seasonal religious journeys made to the sacred places of the earth. But their sanctity long preceded the rise of the Christians, who merely inherited the natural sanctity belonging to the old natural gods. So see, these places of pilgrimage were already established way before the Christian churches came on the scene. People were already making pilgrimages to these sacred spots. But all the churches did was go ahead and erect a church and make it seem as if these pilgrimages have been for these Christian and Catholic churches the whole time. Not only have they stolen the identity of the people, they've also stolen the identity of these sacred places and made it seem as if it's always been theirs. Just like when you look at the movies, all the Egyptians are white. All of the Europeans are white. The Germans are white. The British are white. You got white people, white Africans, because they're all South Africans. The Australians are white. See, they've just stolen all of the identities of everyone. So, they've done that. So now you also see they've stolen the identities and of these sacred places and try to make it seem as if they were theirs also. So again, most of these churches are noted as shrines for pilgrimage. They were spiritual way stations on the seasonal religious journeys made to sacred places of the earth. But their sanctity long preceded the rise of the Christians, who merely inherited the natural sanctity belonging to the old natural gods, the lords of the groves and the high places, with whom the giants had definite kinetic rapport through the spiritual energies accruing to the sites themselves. When the Christians, following their usual custom of adapting the dread and devotion paid to pagan shrines, converted country after country, they erected temples to St. Michael on all the sacred hilltops. So see, they went to these sacred places, sacred hilltops, and they put their shrines there, their churches there. This is something that the Christians have been doing again and again and again. But see, these are the things that are not talked about. These are the things that are not, reported. So they've been able to do all these things and no one even bring it up. That's why so many people have such a hard time turning their backs on these churches and leaving them, because they feel like these churches have been established for such a long time, and that if you don't listen to the the priests and the pastors, that you're gonna go burn in hell, because they're the only ones that actually have the pathway to heaven. But see, they never had a pathway. All they've done is jacked our stuff and act like it was theirs. And what you're going to see is in all these different books, it's the same things over and over and over again. But see, then you got these people that will come in and be like, well, you need to show us this, and you need to prove that, and this is, you're reading too many books and you're looking at too much information. Now, see, do you ever go to the church and say, hey, how long has your church really been established here? What was here before? What's under these churches? Are there, tunnels and different things that are leading to different places? Why was it so important to build all these churches on these old sacred sites that supposedly were pagan sites? And you made it seem as if pagan means something negative, when you guys know it's just certain sites, old sites, sacred sites that were already there, that you just called them pagan, but you just made it a point to build over all of them. And you're going to see in a couple of pictures here, like the extent that they went to build these churches on some of these places. Like, how did you even build it? Because it's such a horrible terrain to try to build something. But it must have been so important for them to put their churches there that they found a way. So let's continue. Again, when the Christians, following their usual custom of adapting the dread and devotion paid to pagan sites, converted country after country, they erected temples to Saint Michael on all the sacred hilltops. In biblical terminology, Michael was the shining warrior archangel who fought and defeated Satan, the great adversary, the serpent of evil and magic. In ecclesiastical art, St. Michael is nearly always depicted stabbing a dragon with a lance. In the main esoteric teachings, the dragon or serpent is seen as the personification of the cosmically derived pagan magic forces. According to occult theory, these forces fuse together at the sacred places of the landscape, which were built to focus, channel, and disperse them. St. Michael replaced the dragon as the new guardian of these religious power centers. And in Christian hagiography, he came to symbolize the triumph of the true religion over pagan idolatry. This is, sadly, a typical example of the Christians' deliberate misinterpretation and distortion of the religion they ousted. The building of St. Michael shrines upon elevated sites ties in with basic mound and hill sanctity, following the secret geomantic tradition inherited and handed down on by the, let me see what it says here on the next page, by the Druids, Chaldees, Gnostics, and Templars. Okay, so like I said, it's telling you the same. These Christians are what they do all the time. Okay, they just pretty much down the religion that was there before and to raise theirs up. But we know now that the one that they raised up was the abominable church. The one that they raised up was Satan's church. So again, it says, this is sadly a typical example of the Christians' deliberate misinterpretation and distortion of the religion they ousted. And that's what they've always done. Misinterpret everything. Those aren't the most high, those aren't God's chosen people. They're just slaves. They don't have a history. We can do whatever. Oh, they're ham. They're destined to just be slaves. They're cursed with, to be slaves. Those aren't the God's chosen people. No. Our religion, is the way to heaven. And then using Michael. See, Michael is going to stand up for his people. He's not standing up for the Christian church. Let's get that real fast. And there's so much more information. I was going to bring a quick video this evening, but we're going to get into more later on. Let's go to Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time, same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And see, they've used Michael and made it seem as if he was, the representative of this new Christian religion. And he was taking down the serpent or the dragon. Again, we know that Michael is going to stand up for the children of thy people, the Israelites, in the future. That's where Michael's going to be standing up. But see, they take everything and they just bastardize it. They just take everything and just flip it. That's what they do. That's what they've been doing. But now the Most High is bringing truth to the world. People are, hey, you're welcome to believe whatever it is you guys want to believe. You want to believe that your churches, are the pathway to heaven, and you're going to ride with that, and you're going to ignore all this other information. So be it. There was something established way before the Christian churches, and these sacred sites have power, and others have used the power before, and all this information has been hidden. Why is it that the Christian church and the Catholic church has hidden all this information? Why don't they tell you that they built over all the pagan sites, and they just pretty much, put their churches on top, and and try to get people to worship their gods and get power by getting you to go into their churches? How come they haven't told you the truth? How come they haven't told you the truth about who the real people of the Most High are? Who are the ones that, the whole Bible is dealing with? Because if you don't know who the Most High's children are, you cannot understand prophecy, because prophecy revolves around the children of the Most High. So if you got that wrong, then everything else you're going to have is going to be absolutely way off. And as you can see with these churches and everything else, everything is way off, because they're all still waiting for the rapture. They're still waiting to get raptured. They still think that, hey, they get to dirty up the kitchen, dirty up all the dishes, pots, pans, everything. And then after they eat, they get to just get in their car and roll on out and don't have to clean anything. That's them. That's them to the T. Because they've never had to be responsible. They've been in their blessings the whole time, and having, Jake have to clean up everything for them. See, Jake ain't doing that no more. Jake's not relegated to that position anymore. The Israelites are being raised back up, and they're bringing out this truth. So you don't see many people trying to come into the comment boards and try to explain all this information. He said, you can't sit there and say, we can only read the Bible. We can only read the Bible. That's all that we have. Those are all the words. That's the only words of God that we have from a church that has lied to you about absolutely everything and continues to lie to this day. If they lie to you about absolutely everything, then how can you believe then that there's only 80 books or there's only 66 books? Because they tell you that. These people have lied about absolutely everything. But you're going to believe how many books that you should be reading. You're going to believe, them. If they're telling you the truth. Check out this church right here. St. Michael's, Needle Rock, Le Puy, France. Look at that. I mean, they must have been, they're serious about putting this church on top of this area right here. I'm like, how in the hell they even build that? But that shows you how important it was for them to put their church on this secret site, in a sacred site. Look at that right there. How much work, how many people you think died having to build this place? There's pictures of these churches built in all over the place on top of these sacred sites. And then he came over here to America and did exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. All these churches on certain sites. So they're hiding something. They know that these areas are very, very powerful, and they want to harness that power for their God. So as you can see, one God took over for another, and now we know, through Scripture, through the second stick, that this new religion that came in was the religion of Satan. So if there's only two gods, who were they covering over? Who were they hiding? They were hiding these sacred sites of the Most High. There's only one truth. One group lies about everything. One group is about truth. You don't hear about them, going over here and building. They don't tell you about how they built these churches on all these sacred sites, these supposed pagan sites. And these were being used by the Druids, who had vast knowledge of many different things. How do they get this information? How do they learn how to harness the power of these sacred sites? Who gave them that knowledge? Who was the Most High giving that knowledge to? You see, I said, so just because we fell off, that doesn't mean that we didn't have this information before. We fell off, and you guys had your opportunity. The other nations had their opportunity. They're not going to tell the world that, hey, yeah, the Hebrews, they were given this information and they were able to harness the power of these sites and they had all this information. And they're not going to tell you that. They're going to say, hey, these are all pagan. We're going to build our churches on top of them. So hopefully these people learn how to worship the true God. The true God, who? Satan? Because that's who you brought in. All of these churches on these sacred sites are all houses of Satan. And now they're being exposed because we're now at the end. All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who was wisdom? Who was the Holy Spirit? Acknowledge Yahweh Shai. Shalom.